History of France by Charlotte M. Yonge. The 100 Years' War. Wars of Edward III. By the Salic law, as the lawyers called it, the crown was given on the death of Charles IV to Philip, Count of Valois, son to a brother of Philip IV. But it was claimed by Edward III of England as son of the daughter of Philip IV. Edward contented himself, however, with the mere assertion of his pretensions, until Philip exasperated him by attacks on the borders of Guyenne, which the French kings had long been coveting to complete their possession of the south, and by demanding the surrender of Robert of Artois, who, being disappointed in his claim to the county of Artois by the judgment of the Parliament of Paris, was practicing by sorcery on the life of the King of France. Edward then declared war, and his supposed right caused a century of warfare between France and England, in which the broken, downtrodden state of the French peasantry gave England an immense advantage. The knights and squires were fairly matched, but while the English yeomen were strong, staunch, and trustworthy, the French were useless, and only made a defeat worse by plundering the fallen on each side alike. The war began in Flanders, where Philip took the part of the Count, whose tyrannies had caused his expulsion. Edward was called in to the aid of the citizens of Ghent by their leader Jacob van Artevelde, and gained a great victory over the French fleet at Sluis, but with no important result. At the same time, the two kings took opposite sides in the War of the Succession in Brittany, each defending the claim most inconsistent with his own pretensions to the French crown, Edward upholding the male heir, John de Montfort, and Philip the direct female representative, the wife of Charles de Blois. Creçy and Poitiers. Further difficulties arose through Charles the Bad, King of Navarre and Count of Evreux, who was always on the watch to assert his claim to the French throne through his mother, the daughter of Louis X, and was much hated and distrusted by Philip VI and his son John, Duke of Normandy. Fearing the disaffection of the Norman and Breton nobles, Philip invited a number of them to a tournament at Paris, and there had them put to death after a hasty form of trial, thus driving their kindred to join his enemies. One of these offended Normans, Godfrey of Harcourt, invited Edward to Normandy, where he landed, and having consumed his supplies, was on his march to Flanders when Philip, with the whole strength of the king...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?